Hello, everyone, and welcome to Building Back Better Post-Coronavirus Music Industry. We've got some amazing guests with me today. And just to let you know, this is part of the Yorkshire Music Forum Convention, I'm sure you're aware. It's produced by the Yorkshire Music Forum Consortium of Come Play With Me, DMF Digital, Higher Rhythm, Arnold Brown Limited, and Music Leads, and in collaboration with the brilliant Launchpad. Yorkshire Music Forum is a PRS Foundation talent development partner. I'm very lucky to have Ben from PRS Foundation here with us today. And this event is supported by the BPI as well as youth music with public funding from the National Lottery through Arts Council England, Leeds 2023, Arts at Leeds, and Leeds City Council through Launchpad. Actually, this is the last chat today, but you can watch back on all of the other chats through the Launchpad and YMF convention pages, so do catch up on the other brilliant talks from today as well. Feel free to ask questions. There's a comments box and we'll be answering some of those at the end. And yeah, I think that's all for the introduction. Now let's move on with introducing our actual panelists. So if you could all just let me know a bit about you and what you do. I'll start with Marta, sorry. Go on.
It's okay. Hello, my name is Marta and I'm working as artist relations at Exit Live. It's a platform that's helping artists to create a new revenue income for themselves. And I'm also a violinist. I started in the music industry as an artist myself. And yes, always working with artists on one side or the other. So yeah, also like co-founder of Shane Gigs, another subscription platform for live music that will be launching in 2021. So a lot of exciting projects in spite of COVID. So yeah, really excited to be here. Thanks to the organization and thanks to Exit Live for this opportunity. And yeah, looking forward to all we have to talk about this tonight.
Amazing. And Vic?
Yes, so my name is Vic Bain. I've worked in various parts of the music industry for about 25 years now. The past few years, I've been focused full-time on campaigning and researching around women in music. So I'm doing a PhD looking at women's careers in the music industry, but I'm also a diversity consultant working with lots of different organizations. And one of those organizations is disability access charity Attitude is Everything. So I'm doing a piece of work as their strategy director right now. And yeah, really focused on building back better.
Brilliant. And Ben?
I am Ben Winter. I am Grants and Programs Manager at the PRS Foundation. So I look after the industry funds, including the flagship fund, which is Momentum, also Hitmaker Fund and International Showcase Fund. I am also a manager of talent as well and have a talent management company as well, called Unstoppable Music Group, where we manage producers, songwriters, artists, and various other talents as well outside of the scope of music. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. And last but not least, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm the founder and CEO of Go to Hear, which is a new music platform that myself and a couple of other techie guys have been building over the last couple of years, looking at new and different music income streams and powering that up with crowd marketing using an affiliate system. So yeah, and we're just about to do a crowdfund for it, about to go live within the next couple of weeks to try and get some more funds to make it sort of develop faster. I've been involved in the music business from all sorts of sides, mainly on the live events and production side. I've had my own venues. I used to work for a big event company, and probably a couple of the notable events was I was the sort of site manager for the Build a Reading Festival and WOMAD in Reading. And I've been involved in all sorts of nightclubs, bars, running live events and things like that over the years. But yeah, I'm interested in how musicians are struggling at the moment, probably before coronavirus as well, and applying innovative and interesting and different sort of routes to market and routes to income.
Brilliant. just to introduce myself, I realized I didn't actually do that in any kind of real way. I'm Jess Partridge. I'm the founder and editor of a trio of magazines called Indsutry. I also have worked on various projects like Key Change at the PRS Foundation and a couple of conferences. I'm based in Glasgow, so yeah, worked with Annie Mac on her conference and Wide Days, which is another great festival up here, and yeah, do lots of things like that. So to kind of kick us off, I know obviously this is about building back better, but it would be great to talk about what we've actually seen during this time, which has given you hope or has kind of sown the seeds of, okay, well, I think that this has allowed us to build things better, or will allow us in the future to build things differently at very least. Mark, obviously you're talking a lot about working in that area, about developing things. What have you seen, not only in your own work, but what else has really inspired you and makes you think that we will be able to build back better?
I think what's happened, and it's like pre-coronavirus, is musicians were looking towards live events to make their income, because sort of CDs weren't selling, and yeah, streaming only pays a limited income unless you make it really big, sort of thing. So the live events thing, which kind of got curtailed by coronavirus, was like a major disaster for a lot of musicians. So what I've seen quite a lot of people innovating, it's not just sort of smaller artists, but even big artists, is actually doing live streams online and doing live concerts online, some of which are free, and people can access, and it's obviously just to try and gain more followers and more of a following, and hopefully, I guess, monetizing them somehow by selling them t-shirts or things. But then some of them have had a paywall up where people have actually paid to go and watch and listen to a live gig. And I think that's quite interesting, because it's been done before, even with a live gig with people at it, and then other people can stream it for a paid amount, so they don't actually have to visit the venue. So for me, that's kind of like a way of expanding your audience, and a bit of technology that's sort of grown over the last 6 months.
So you're seeing like a future in that kind of, well, maybe people will be able to sell more tickets through actually just live streaming shows from concerts in the future, when we actually do have gigs and things like that back.
Yeah. I mean, say for example, a venue has a 500 capacity,
yeah,
and you could buy a ticket to go and watch the band in the venue at, say £20 a ticket, but then you could maybe get a ticket at £5 to stream it, and so it provides an extra revenue stream for the musician, and it means that geographically people don't have to travel. So there's a whole green and eco thing. It for the musicians, it means that they're expanding their audience into different markets. And if they wanted to, say, for example, try and capitalize on their followers and their followings in a different country, they could target market that gig and sell tickets in a completely different country and increase their own exposure. And of course, with targeted marketing and things, it's all doable.
Of course. So Martin, you've been working in this area a lot as well, right?
Yeah, so, the thing, yes. Also as an artist, because I've been, one of the positive things I've seen from COVID was to see really the power of music, how people will, giving concerts and recitals even from the balconies. As a musician, that kind of just really touched me, like, this is so powerful. And I don't think this happened in really any other industry. And this power, I think, has led to a lot of innovation in this sense, as Mark was saying. In my opinion, the only, not problem, but I think live streaming, like live video streaming, it needs more investment. I have many of my colleagues just telling me, we want to do this, but it can be simple and that could help you to gain some revenue. But if you want to make it like closer really to like an experience in a live gig, that requires at least 2 cameras, people editing, people, filming. And for small venues, especially after what's going on right now, that they're really struggling to just stay open, asking them to invest in this, it might be even more difficult than, for example, just record the audio. And that's why at Exit Live, with all respect to other platforms, that's why we focus on on audio recordings and letting artists just use the platform for free, and they can just put the audio recordings from the concert there. They choose the price. It's totally accessible for everyone. So we're making this more accessible also to independent artists, because I mean, I come from Spain, but also in London, like everything starts in the independent scene. So we need to make that easier for these artists to have access to a global audience as well, to let people listen to their live audio recording from the concert they went or for the concert they missed, wherever they are, even if they are in another completely Philippines, whatever. And that's what we're focusing on, audio more than in video, just to make it more accessible. And that's something, just seeing this innovation has been one of the most positive things of COVID. If we need to say there's some positive things coming from this, so that would be one.
So, you know, those seeds. Then obviously you work for a funder, and funders have done a lot of work in this area, like really helping try and support creators especially. And we've already touched on one kind of revenue stream. And as a manager as well, I guess, like, what revenue streams are you seeing? Do you see the possibility to replace some of this missing income? And what are the most viable ones? How can we be?
I think I come from a slightly different perspective to everyone else, because I think the whole music industry ecosystem is messed up. I've thought this before the pandemic, and I continue to believe this now. And I've been a strong advocate, especially at the foundation of the talent that we fund, for artists to think outside the box. Most artists think that to put out a record, you know, we must go to a plugger, we must get some online digital stuff happening, get some press, get some radio, and we're good. And then do some live shows, and that's my career. And my whole thing is that shouldn't be your model. And what I love about the COVID-19 situation, and what I'm really optimistic about, is it forced artists to actually think differently. It forced them to look at the model and adapt. Some of them, because a lot of them are still waiting, which is a whole other conversation that needs to be had, and those people get shaken up. But it forced a lot of talent to adapt. And I think the key, or the greatest thing towards this Build Back Better, is that artists are looking at their career and they're starting to understand that they're mini businesses. It's not just, okay, I go out, I perform, and that's it. Like, your business. So look at yourself in that way and operate in that way, and put together your business plan that reflects the fact that you are a business. Look at different revenue streams, whether that's coming from online, whether that's direct to consumer, whatever it is, and find those different ways of getting that revenue in. And because I've always been I'm real geeky, so I study a lot of stuff unnecessarily, and I'm a real fan of like the true fan theory and the theory.
Do you want to?
1,000 true fans that buy into your product and spend £50 to £100 per year, which, if you calculate, it works out about £8 a month, which is less than a Nando's. Like, if they're willing to invest that into your career per year, then you can make a sustained good living from being an artist. And I think a lot more talent needs to recognize that and start to operate in that way. And what I've seen through the pandemic is a lot more artists, not necessarily take on the true fan theory, but they are starting to go, okay, I need to pivot what I do, think about myself as a business, and begin to actually look at revenue streams and how I can make money. Because you know what? I can't go and do live. And that's the only place I was earning money. So if I can't do live, this has shown me that my whole business is wrong. Like, as a business, you should have multiple streams of income, so that if one stops, there's others coming in. And I think a lot of artists and you know, various managers I speak to are now starting to recognize that and are starting to put that into practice.
And just to, you know, delve a little bit deeper into that, what are those specific revenue streams? What are you seeing? What technology are you seeing that backs those up? Like, what ones are you excited about specifically?
So I think it's all about innovation. Like, I'm a big dreamer, so I've always been like, anything possible if you believe it and you put the work in. So you know, you can be innovative and go, right, there's a big thing about how many Instagram followers have you got? I always say, well, how many of those Instagram followers do you connect with and do you have an email for? Because that's where the engagement will really happen. So I'm seeing a lot more people engaging on a real level and taking their social networks, taking their social media and using that, they can engage directly to audience and sell direct to audience. So whether it's merch, whether it's product, whether it's, you know, getting more than just a stream, because we know streams don't pay well. So it's just giving them unique content, online performances, all kinds, access. I saw one artist that put something up on Instagram for his fan base to get in his DMs and send them their numbers. And then once he got their numbers, he put them all onto a WhatsApp group, and then they started engaging. And he actually worked out how to do his artwork. He gave them options, was like, pick this one, this one, this one. And they gave him his opinion, and that ended up being the artwork. So they're more engaged. And then as a result, he also put out limited edition physical copies, which, because they're part of the artwork, they then purchase. So he ended up making more money than he would have if he had just engaged with everyone on Instagram and said, go stream my music. So I think people are becoming more creative, more innovative, and are looking at different ways of engaging audiences and different ways of creating revenue streams. And I think that's really, really important. And it also gives them more leverage for majors and other areas of the business when they go to do other types of deals as well.
For sure. So Vic, I would love to get your opinion as well. Like, what have you seen any cutting edge technology, anything that you think has been particularly interesting? Obviously, your work is based quite a lot around networks, so that element kind of follows on from what Ben is saying, maybe less focused towards artists, but the industry side of things.
Yeah, well, I'm actually a board director of a music tech startup called Delic. Delic.network is the URL, and that's really, well, yeah, they're mainly based in Edinburgh, but a developer team from all over. And that's, you know, that's an innovative technology that I've been involved with for a year and a half. So we were having Zoom meetings a year before everybody else started having to have Zoom meetings, and it's a platform with ethics and with music creators and musicians at its heart, and that's where it's focused. So I think the thing that we really need to stress here is that musicians are looking for ethical solutions, because the big streaming giants, Spotify and even SoundCloud, YouTube, the deals and the income that most musicians, I would say 99% of musicians, are getting from these platforms are barely enough to buy a Nando's. So musicians are looking for ethical solutions, and they are out there and they're starting. I mean, I think the announcement, was it just yesterday, from Bandcamp, that they have now got a live streaming service that they're rolling out. I think that's really good news for people, because they are a much more ethical technology company, and every month they've been doing these free to musicians days where they're not taking a cut, and it all goes back to the creator. So I think there's a desperate need for really ethical platforms for musicians to take advantage of. So certainly I think I put Delic in that camp as well.
I mean, yeah, the Bandcamp stuff has been so good and really has seen on both sides, not only like it's helped their business loads and everyone now considers them such an ethical platform. So it's a really smart move from them. But yeah, I mean, do you see that in the future? Like, do you see them being able to compete on that level? Like, how are we able to make sure that we are continually using those platforms and actually kind of investing in them, rather than it going back to, oh, well, actually I've got huge reach off of this Spotify playlist, so let's invest all my time in that?
Yeah, but I mean, who's got huge reach on the Spotify playlists? I mean, who, you know, I've read figures over the years about, you know, the amount of music that is being uploaded online. You know, most people not earning anything at all from you know, being on these big platforms. So I think that there has to be you know, an artist has to sort of see a difference between, okay, so they can put their music up on Spotify and they do that just because they have to be there, not that they're going to be earning any sort of income. And if they want to be replacing that income from live, it needs to be on other platforms that pay them a much greater percentage of the income. So you know, solutions like Bandcamp and Delic and all of the other ethical, and I'm sure Go to Here and Exit Live as well. You know, we're all talking about platforms which are much more geared to actually paying the artists, and that's what the music industry has to start supporting.
This is all really great, and obviously with all of these kind of streams, live streams and opportunities like that, it is creating a new revenue source that people didn't have before. But we've kind of touched on it already. There is an issue here of access. So not everyone has, obviously with Exit Live, with what you're doing, Marta, you know, you touched on that. You talked about the fact that not everyone was able to create a decent live stream. What can we do about it? How do we embrace the accessibility of the digital? So Vic, your work with Attitudes Everything is very relevant there, but then also make sure we're giving people who might not have access to even laptops, you know, computers, the ability to really make those videos. How are we able to reach those? And what do we see that being in the future? Marta, it might be good for you to kind of kick off talking about this with the work that you've done and the considerations that you have.
Yeah, so basically at Exit Live, we are now investing also in infrastructure to allow venues to get a decent, high quality live recording. So we're going to be helping venues and artists to create this product so they can sell it. And as you can check in, anyone can check in our website, up to 80% of the proceeds go to the artists. And then part of that 80% that is shared with promoters and venues if they're helping the artists to make this possible. So as Vic was saying, we're just doing this for the artists. We are many, like it's not me, the only artist in the team. This has been designed by artists as well. So we're just trying to assist also artists who want to, if they want to use the platform, they don't know how, and then have all the people in the team to assist them and help as much as we can possibly to help them just use the platform and earn the money they should be getting from this. And that's why I think I like to see when live music is back, because I mean, maybe because I'm a musician, but I think everyone here as well, like we try to replace it, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And I hope we'll have it back and soon. So I will be interested in seeing which of these new technologies that are developing a lot now are still, you know, working. People are still using them. Artists are still using them after it. And that's why I think the interesting part is going to be in the mix of technology and maybe live music. And as Ben said, I totally agree that artists should be looking also to all the revenues, not only live music or ways to amplify live music as we do with Exit Live, and as I'm sure other companies and live streaming platforms do, but also definitely be creative. That's something I work at other projects as well with a lot of artists, and when it's not live related, that's something I always tell them, like you have to make something different. You have to create a quality fan base. It doesn't matter the numbers. It matters if they go to the concert, if they buy your CD, if they buy your merchandise. So yeah, it's just maybe there should be also more funds for, like, I know musicians unions, I'm also part of them. They are helping musicians during this time. So as much help as they can get to make, you know, them possible for them to use these platforms and access these revenues. All those ideas are, I think, more than welcome, because all of us need the artists. We all need them. There's no music industry if there are no artists. So, and all of them start as independents. So we need to put the focus on that, I think.
Mark, it would be great to hear from you as well about how you perceive these issues in, accessibility, and what you'd like to see in the future to tackle these issues as well.
I think, and I'd probably like to just say more what the danger is of live music and live events, and being present at a live event is what music is. It's huge. I mean, we've made massive leaps and bounds with digital platforms and digital access and video and Zoom and things like that, but nothing beats going to a concert. Nothing beats being in a festival field with 20, 30, 40, 50,000 more people. It's the atmosphere and everything. And I think, yes, we've got all this brilliant stuff that's had to happen now with live streaming and things like that. But yeah, prior to lockdown, festivals and events were getting mainstream TV coverage. They were becoming the norm for people to holiday at home and go and spend a couple of £100 on a festival ticket, spend a weekend sat in the field, and it's like partying on. And I think we need to realise that a lot of this video streaming and things now, when we can start holding events again, it's an extra to the live events. It will be used at live events as well. And I think I'd like to see the technology start to get used at a live event. So interacting with your Facebook audience at a live event, I mean, the whole concept of someone being on a stage asking everybody to tweet something at the same time, it's been done. But actually live interacting with the digital audience at a live event, it expands that feel-good factor, it expands your audience. And I think that's what the whole industry needs to look at, is that what we've had to create because of coronavirus and being online, when we can get back out in the fields and in the venues and things like that, creating live events, we can use that technology to add to those live events that people go to.
That is absolutely right. And I definitely think that we will be embracing a lot of these things that we've talked about. But how can we make sure that we are doing it in an accessible way? How do we build these events back better? How do we make sure that we are being open to more people? And also, there is a level of accessibility to not just people with access issues, but maybe people who are living in areas that they can't regularly attend panels or something like that. And this is giving them the opportunity. How do we build it back better so that we can include more people? So,
I think what level of artists are we talking here?
Go for it, whatever one. I mean, about the industry.
Like, I think, if we're talking festival kind of level and stuff, I think it's important that things have happened during this pandemic. We've had a pandemic. We've had the Black Lives Matter uprising. We've had a lot of stuff happen in this pandemic. There's been discussions around gender. There's lots of stuff that's happened. And I think it's really important that when we come out of this pandemic, those conversations that have started continue. I think it's really important that festivals address the gender issue, that festivals address the ethnic disparity that goes on at these places. So I think those are things that really have to happen. And that's not just in terms of, what happens behind the scenes, but also in terms of the artists that get booked and given opportunities to play and present. And, I'm hoping that when we come out of this, that'll be a big part of the building back better, as well as, generating income and revenue stream.
Do you think do you think there are things we can put in place to ensure that is continued, that those conversations are continued, that those considerations are?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much. There's things I'm working on at the moment to ensure that happens and that this conversation doesn't get left in 2020. But I think it's really important that organizations, companies start to internally put practices in place to make sure that happens. that certain festivals are more inclusive. You know, you look at certain lineups and you're like, okay, I'm, you know, I go to a lot of conferences, and this, you know, no joke, went there with Joe, and we had a joke. We're like, you know, only black person here. And, you know, these are things that have to change post COVID. Yeah. It can't be that. I had a meeting there, and it was with someone from Rotterdam, and I said, "Oh, how am I going to find you?" She said, "I'm the only black woman." And I went, "Well, I'm the only black guy." And we had a joke about it, and that's how. And we actually found each other because of that. Because I looked for the black woman, she looked for the black man, and we connected. So, you know, those types of things can't happen. They shouldn't happen, and we got to change that after lockdown. But for
so you're saying, just in terms of like practical, you're saying companies need to take responsibility and really put these things in place.
Yeah, I'm not going to call out conferences or festivals by name, but they need to make sure that they're booking a diverse mix of talent, and not just ethnically, but in terms of gender as well. They need to make sure that booking, when they look at their lineup, they go, "Oh, that's a great lineup," but are we inclusive? Are we inclusive of genre? Are we inclusive of gender? Are we inclusive of ethnicity? That really has to start happening, and that, you know, they need to start being held accountable for those things. And I think I'm hopeful that post COVID, those are things that will start to happen a lot more often and eventually become commonplace. And I think that's when there'll be a lot more there'll be a lot more artists that come through as a result, because there's a lot of artists that, like you said, they don't necessarily have certain access and all the rest of it. And they're like, well, why am I going to go and try and get on this festival or that showcase or this? Because what's the point? I don't ever see anyone that looks like me. Without representation, it's never going to happen. So, you know, I want to just turn into that type of conversation, but that's one thing I'm hopeful for. And I just think that artists on the live side, artists really have to think about not only the effects of COVID and what is, you know, the way that it's interrupted their plans, but also I think moving forward, plan for should it return and ways of working around that. Because, you know, at the foundation we get a lot of requests still for funding to continue touring and to continue to do live, which we will fund you for with caveats. And I think it's just, you know, one thing that I'm always encouraging the talent that come in for that funding to do is also to really think about, well, what happens if you can't tour? What happens if this lasts for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Like, we don't know. So it's really important that you're thinking outside the box. And that doesn't mean don't perform live, but like we said, you know, we saw at the completely other end of the spectrum, BTS do a performance which smashed records, generated a crazy amount of money, and really moved the needle in what's possible in terms of live digital performance and revenues. But then at the other end of the scale, you know, you have people that are performing, but they might go to a venue and then you're having donations happen, and they're actually making more money than they would if they were going out and performing live, because they don't have necessarily the same level of expense. It's still expense, but not the same level of expense, and they're actually generating money. So it's just really about, I think, yeah, it's really just about how people plan and think and don't go back to the norm, like create a new normal.
Just so obviously, like, many industry leaders have kind of talked about their concerns that this pandemic is going to hit women, people of color, anyone who is already marginalized and underrepresented in the music industry is going to be hit hard by this. There's been a lot of talk of that. Vic, obviously, a lot of your work has been in this area. How can we limit this impact and ensure that we're building back better? I mean, Ben obviously talked a bit about policy, ensuring companies are taking responsibility. So what other ways forward do you see?
Well, I think this is why it's always important to have good data and evidence of the statistics and the situation out there. So the UK Music Diversity Task Force survey of the UK music industry workforce was very interesting, because that's been benchmarking the workforce, for the past six years, and other bits of research, including the research I published last year, which showed that in over 300 UK record labels and music publishing companies, only 14% of signed writers were women, and 20% of signed artists were women. So we need to keep monitoring those statistics. I'm going to do another Counting the Music Industry in 2024. So giving it 5 years between each audit to see whether we have improved on or not. I think the vote is out, really. We don't know which way it's going to go, and there's lots of us who are campaigning for building back better, and let's hope that we do, but that's not necessarily guaranteed with the sort of force of markets. So all we can do is keep shouting about it and hope that people listen. So one of the things I would like to mention is the launch of the relaunch of the F list next week. So as Jess knows, and is sort of an integral part of the team, we are launching a not-for-profit community interest company on Monday. And this is a revamp of the F list, and the F list came out of the Counting the Music Industry research I did last year. So basically, I've got the details of 4,500 female musicians who are based in the UK on a Google spreadsheet, and all of their websites or their labels if they have one. We're relaunching that next week. So any female artist who's based in the UK can go on and create a listing, put their music up, put their biog and contact links. And we've got partnerships with with Independent Venue Week in the offing and the Association of Independent Festivals, and they are going to be telling their members, if they need female musicians, there's no excuse on saying, oh, we can't find any, or we've asked them all, because there's going to be a list of 4,500 of them with their beautiful websites for them to go to. So again, this is something that sort of come out of COVID, really. I've spent the past eight months since we've all been locked down and restricted, building up this website solution. So there are tools out there, technology tools out there, which we can use to make sure that the music industry we start to recreate next year is more equal and more inclusive.
Something that I guess the F list is kind of, not entirely. I would love to talk about the role that networks have in rebuilding the industry, because the F list, although is not a network on the face of it, I know that some of your ideas are based in the idea of networking people, bringing them together. What roles do we think that networks can play in building back a better and stronger industry? Vic, do you see, with obviously the work that you're doing, the impact of them and where they could help?
Well, I really feel that every single female musician who is in the directory feels that they're part of a community. I really do want to build on that ethos. And when I was sort of planning to put the not-for-profit together, I put out one tweet just in July, just sort of saying to people, I'm thinking about making a social enterprise for female musicians. Is anyone interested? Thinking I might have 10 or 15 responses, and I had about 140 responses to that one tweet. So I've made a community out of that. As you know, we've got this lovely board of directors, and I have to say I think it's one of the most diverse boards in the music industry in terms of, well, we're all women, but apart from that, we are all. We're all in different locations, different genres of music, different ethnicities, different everything. And I think that's really going to help. And I think the list of social media ambassadors is about 75 women on that, and a few men, because we are inclusive. And so I really hope that every woman on that directory feels like they are part of the community, and that your strength in numbers. Totally believe in that.
For sure. Marta, Mark, have you been part of any communities or networks that have really helped you in this time, either of you?
Just a sort of word on networks is, there's a big network. It's a social network called Facebook and things, but is it really a network? Have bands given up on creating their own sort of
I'm
connections?
talking about networks, I'm talking more about things like the F-List or the Black Music Action Coalition, or places that will bring people together and amplify their voices, basically. I'm just talking about the roles that they have more.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's what I was sort of going to say, is a band can create its own network of its fans and its super fans. So it goes back to a little bit like fan clubs and the old school type of fan club, which immediately then gives you that connection with your people who are ultimately going to drive your income stream and be those people that you can bounce off and things. And I think that's important. And the whole comment about Facebook is everybody just seems to be using Facebook and all the big companies, whereas go back years and years and people had their own fan clubs and they used to mail out fanzines and things like that. And maybe we should just be looking at that again and trying to get that personal connection back with your super fans.
This is what I was touching on with
exactly what Ben's saying.
Yeah, the direct consumer, and it's like, I had a conversation with excuse me, I'm cleaning my glasses, I couldn't see out. I had a conversation with a CEO of a major record label not too long ago, and he was talking about, the amazing numbers he has on this certain artist on YouTube and on Instagram. And I was like, okay, but what's the conversion rate of those numbers? Like, what's the conversion rate from those numbers to the actual sales? And it was very telling that artist had these amazing numbers, but didn't break the top 40 the following week. So, for me, I'm like, well, collecting people, which is what these social media platforms are, and I'm not against them at all. I think they're great. Collecting people is one thing, but actually engaging and having fans is something totally different. And I'm from an era of, like you said, fanzines and mailing lists and touching people and going out to street teaming. That's why I started doing street team. So for me, it's you've really got to have that human interaction rather than just I'm going to like something that you've posted, because that's not actually a transaction, and everything should be a transaction when you're an artist, your business. So your interaction should be transactional in some shape or form, either financially or you're giving them something which down the line is going to lead to a financial transaction.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I think people, especially the young generation, are getting used to having access for free to all music, and they're just losing that sense of this is work and this is people dedicated their time and their effort and their money, because also it costs a lot of money to put music out there. So that's why I think we have to focus on services that are trying to recover that feeling of purchase or of physical product. Even if you're buying an audio recording or a live stream which you can download, it's something that you can have, because I think artists should be focusing on those fans. As I said before, it doesn't matter the number. They have to go to your gigs. They have to be crazy to buy everything you do. They have to be willing to support you, because that's, in my opinion, that's a quality industry. Otherwise, it's like, okay, I'm collecting, as you were saying, numbers, and I'm putting, maybe signing artists that look great on YouTube, and that's why maybe they have some following there. But the music itself, it just is losing the importance. And that's why I think, because of everything is audiovisual, and like, we have to come back to the main things, the music. And I think at Exit Life, in our case, we're trying to put out there, like, we are multi-genre as well. So we're trying to bring that diversity to the artists we have on the platform, and also on the team as well. And we have a lot of classical music as well. We have country. We have everything. You can use just the platform for you. And I think it's important that we focus on that as well. We have to come back to what's important in the music. It's the music, and that's it. I think it should be a factor to have really into account to build better the industry, and to maybe reshape the business model we have at the minute. That is, everything is free. It's not free. It shouldn't be free.
Well, I do think music, I was explaining this to an artist I managed the other day. I was like, look, your fortune isn't going to be made from your music, which is really sad, but it's kind of where the business is now. I was like, that's your advertising. That's an advert. Your money's actually going to be made somewhere else. That's a loss leader to allow you to partner with brands and have, sell things that way. Maybe sell your music innovatively, bundled up with a brand and product from them, to go and do live where you're going to generate, to go and do various different things which allow you to go into other industries and other areas where you're actually going to make real money. But the music industry is slowly becoming a loss leader, or at least recorded music is slowly becoming a loss leader to other revenue streams, which is not a great thing, but it's interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of really common themes coming across here, which from very different angles, which is really interesting, and actually just says so much about what we have discovered in this time, especially around, connecting with fans and actually building decent fan bases. But what you were saying there, Ben, feeds in quite well to a question we've actually been asked. Someone said, isn't the experience of COVID that the big players in the world have just consolidated their power, like Amazon, Google, Spotify? Is that the same across the industry? Obviously, there are a lot of independent companies and smaller companies which are struggling to survive or not surviving. Myself, I've just, closed 3 companies. There are definitely examples of this, but is that happening? Do we feel like the music industry is avoiding that, or it's getting the support it needs? Yeah.
I think it depends on where you are in the industry. Like, I've done a talk on Thursday, which plug you can watch back at the PRS Foundation Instagram page, with Andy Musgrave from
Supernature.
There you go. From Supernature, who is AJ Tracy's manager and also manages Conductor and various other artists. Say Bodega, lots of others. And he was saying it's been his best year thanks to COVID, because he was able to pivot his strategies and pivot what the artists were doing in order to generate more income and to make it, and because there was a captive audience, because there are people who are just stuck at home in front of their computer, in front of their TV. He was able to recognize that and do a lot of online work, which led to them having extremely strong years. So since COVID, for example, AJ has had 4 top 10 records as a result, because they were able to go direct to the audience and really tap into their market, their audience, and galvanize them and get them on board and get them to buy products. And that ultimately, I think, is the key to building back better, using this time that we have now to really connect with audiences, so that if it's live, we really go hard when live comes back, because we know that we've got that captive audience. If it's product, we go there. If it's whatever it is, I think now this has created a really brilliant opportunity for engagement. And if we're engaging, then we can reap the benefits of that once we're back in the real world and we create these new models.
for sure. And do any of the others of you have any feelings on this kind of consolidated power? Have you seen that happen, or are you seeing kind of, like Ben's saying, smaller companies thrive?
You can go for it. I'll go next. Vic,
sorry.
you want to say something?
Oh,
okay,
sorry, I thought you said Mark.
It's okay.
Oh, right.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair point, because you see the published results of your mega companies that they've had the best quarter ever, and there's growth year on year. What I'd like to see, and yet we also hear about grassroots venues struggling, theatres closing, obviously all the festivals are they're going under. Their cash flow is just non-existent this year. Production companies are selling off stage and lighting rigs at auctions for next to nothing. And I'd like to see some of the bigger corporations that are doing really well to actually maybe create some funds, create some grant funds, maybe give out some partnership type working with smaller venues that are struggling, because ultimately it will actually make those big corporations feel a bit more like less of a faceless corporate body, but a bit more in touch, a bit more in touch with your small town.
It's an ecosystem, so if you're funding that, it
absolutely,
comes up. You need little venues to exist in order for the big venues to exist later on.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a small town. Yeah, we've got a tiny little theatre here, which is the main venue. It seats maybe 200, 300 people or so. And if somebody like Spotify, put some funding in and created a Spotify gig, a Spotify event, or helped with the refurb or something like that, it gives them more kudos, and it spreads a wealth that ultimately is being paid into from everybody on the street. Everybody who's got a Spotify subscription, everybody who's buying from Amazon, it needs to be redistributed. And that goes to the big record companies. You look back at the old type labels, the smaller labels, the label used to make some money and then reinvest it back into the band. And now we've got the bigger labels. I know they're reinvesting back in, the front of the cost of things, but I can't help but think that the larger the bigger corporations are, the more faceless they become, and the less connectivity to the people and their own customers that are on the ground actually listening. And the indies are the guys who need the help, who are going to be the next guys coming up that get signed by the majors. So they need to be in the grassroots venues helping them. And I think that's what should be happening. Whether it will, I don't know.
But sadly, capitalism is king. I was reading there's a company in America that's doing that. Oh, well, I can hear myself. There's a company in America that's doing that. But what they're doing is they're saying, we'll rescue your venue. We'll give you X amount of millions to save your venue, but we're taking 51% of the company. So capitalism is king.
Yeah.
I think getting these tech companies to pay their fair share of proper tax would really help. That would be we need to look at that.
Yeah, but I think if they are really not giving in with paying more to artists straight away from the incomes they have, I don't think, I'm not sure, maybe they do, hopefully they do, but I really think it's difficult to see they investing really straightforward in venues when they are not capable of giving artists more. So I agree with what's been said before. I think we should, maybe small companies and startups should maybe be more like collaborating more between each other, because at the end of the day, if we just put all together, all the strength we have as small businesses together, we might be able to make a difference. And again, obviously artists will need to keep on building their brand. That's how it works right now. And I think, as Ben would say, at least the music should be there. Everything else should be on top of that. But we shouldn't be forgetting that music is how it starts. So hopefully we come back to that, come back to creating fan base that, again, spend money on artists and spend money also on we have so many people behind the scenes and people don't see that as well. So if everything is free, I don't know what are we all doing here. So yeah, I'm talking as an artist and also as the person who is behind. It is important that we change not the culture, but we change again that mentality of what's the music industry, what should be based on, and what's the thing that should be going on top, like buying all the things, going to live gigs, whatever. Everything should be part of. We should just reshape the ecosystem. In my opinion, try to make it better, make music again to the center.
That's really good. I think that there is an important point here that Mark kind of touched on a bit, in terms of the music industry isn't equally affected across the board. You know, you've got your Andes, from Nature, you've got your venues. They have different challenges. Running a magazine about live gigs, different challenge, and not something that. Well, it just means that different areas of the industry need to react differently. You know, there's independent festivals that are going to be a hit and will never be able to happen again, in a very different way to maybe the bigger festivals that are owned by huge companies like Live Nation that will survive. That's where you really, I think, will see the difference, and where these things that were asked in this question about consolidation of power will come into play. So we only have like 3 or 4 minutes left. So just as a last thing to end on a more positive note, because that was a bit of a downer for me, I would love you all to kind of talk about what you are most excited for. Obviously, things are difficult at the moment, but we have highlighted loads of things. But what are you most excited for? Marta, kick off with you. Like, what have you? Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So, well, in my case, I'm really looking forward to see how the music industry looks like when things come back to normal, and how much more new technologies that are gonna come with this in the meantime. What things are gonna keep on being used? What things are just gonna be stop use because we maybe come back to the real thing? But again, I think I'm gonna put emphasis here, technology that supports and amplifies live music, and musicians in general can be helping build their brand, helping them to collect the rights properly, helping them teach them how they are as a business, because there are so many musicians that don't understand all these areas, and that's where they are losing all the money. So I think there is need for people like to step forward and say, okay, this is here for you, this is what you need to know. These platforms are here for you. These are accessible. This is how you can make your live revenue last longer instead of just finishing this day, because we know you depend on this, and they will be back to depend on that, many of them in the future, unluckily, I think. So how can you make that revenue alive longer? By selling what you're recording, either if it's video or with us, if it's an audio. So just trying to put artists in the middle, because as we've said before, that's the beginning of the ecosystem. That's the center of everything, so we shouldn't be forgetting that. And maybe a big company should do something else, but I definitely agree that shouldn't be stopping us from doing all we can to make it better, to build back better.
Of course. Vic, what are you excited for? Obviously the launch of the F-List next week, we're all very excited about that, but what else?
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about going to a festival again. I mean, I keep having fantasies about it. Oh my goodness, it's going to be like the end of a war, isn't it? We are just going to be, dancing in the streets for a week. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'm really looking forward to seeing more diverse lineups at those festivals.
Excellent. Mark, what are you excited for?
One word: collaboration. I want to see how all the indies, all the people, all have learned that over coronavirus, the way that everyone's got through, not just in music, has been with collaboration, people helping each other, talking different things together, finding commonality, giving people a leg up in that. And I think we need to translate that more in the music industry with we've got all small independent companies that need help. We've all got huge amounts of skill sets and abilities and diversity that we can add into the mix to make it get better. That's what I want to see. And we need to do it for ourselves, whether the big guys are there, taking all the money out of the equation or not. We just need to do it for ourselves with our own skills and assets, and just start talking more. And panels like this are great, but we all need to connect up and collaborate.
I love that. We didn't talk about collaboration enough, and I think that's something that we've really seen in this time that has been exciting for sure. Ben, what are you excited for?
Live music. I think I really took it for granted before this all happened, and I was on my phone the other day and I saw the Royal Philharmonic, who's one of the last gigs that I saw before lockdown, and I was just like, man, I miss live music, I miss orchestras, I just want some live music. Can't wait for that. Like Mark said, I think collaboration, and I'm really excited to see how people take the lessons that have been learned during this pandemic, in terms of inclusion and stuff like that, and apply them moving forward. I think that could be something really, really beautiful. I hope so too.
And from my personal point of view, I'm really excited to see an increase in accessibility in the industry, whether that's just, we've realized that we can do it now. We've realized that we can reach out to people, and anyone with access issues can participate more fully in the industry. So we need to, I want to see that continue and be embraced more. So I'm excited for that for sure. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us today. That was such a great discussion, and you all just have such brilliant insights from so many different areas of the industry. So thanks for that. And I think that's everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.